via video teleconference of the Woodford County Board of Education.
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead and take roll. Looks like all members are present. Do we want to, we'll wait for a second before we do the pledge.
Stream is up and running now, so.
Okay. All right, we've called to order the Woodford County Board of Education meeting for April 27th. All members are present. Shall we say Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Before we start, let me just remind those who are viewing us, please keep your microphone off. Please also turn off your video so that we just see your dot. And if at all possible, you might want to watch us on Facebook Live instead of this platform. All right, we have no communications, and as this is a special agenda, I don't think we can have any proposed amendments to the agenda. We can't add anything, we could remove things. Does anybody have that? Nope, okay. Superintendent's report, Mr. Hawkins.
All right, thank you, Ms. Eaglin. Good evening and thanks for joining our April Board of Education meeting. I'm pleased to announce that 11 Woodford County High School students were selected for the Governor's Scholars Program. 2 Woodford County High School students were selected for the Governor's School for the Arts, and 1 Woodford County High School student was selected for the Governor's School for Entrepreneurs. These are all highly competitive programs, and to have this number of students selected just shows the talent level of our students. As we have traditionally done, we will recognize these students at our August board meeting. Tonight, I'd also like to take the opportunity to speak about 3 action items on our agenda. Rescinding the BG1 for construction of a new high school and the unrestriction of a combined $950,000. Let me begin by addressing our newly defined reality. Currently, our world, nation, state, and community are facing an unparalleled time in history. Just think about what has happened over the last several weeks. All high school, collegiate, and national sporting events, including the Olympics and the Kentucky Derby, have either been canceled or postponed. Businesses have been ordered to close. Unemployment has spiked to record-breaking numbers, and milestone events such as weddings and graduations have been altered in one form or another. Unfortunately, our own community is experiencing firsthand the real hardships created by this crisis. I'm not trying to be an alarmist, as I believe with confidence we will survive the COVID-19 crisis. I have been deeply moved by the generosity and acts of kindness witnessed over the past few weeks. In many ways, our students have learned valuable lessons that could never have been taught inside a classroom. I could not be prouder of the way our school district and community have pulled together in the midst of this pandemic. Difficult times often create the need for people to look beyond their differences and see the common good. I understand there has been much unrest between the board over the past weeks and months, but tonight I'm recommending the board lay that aside and consider unifying around the decisions to rescind the BG1 and unrestrict the $950,000 of general fund dollars to put our district in a safe position to weather this unprecedented storm. While I'm confident we will get through this health crisis, I am uncertain as to what our new normal might be once we reach the other side. Just this past week, Governor Beshear recommended that all schools in Kentucky remain closed for the remainder of the 2019-20 school year. Given school starts as planned in August, our students will have been out of the classroom for nearly 5 months. This amount of time has the potential to create barriers for all students, especially those struggling in one way or another. As a school district, we have to be ready to address these needs as soon as possible. I'm very thankful we will be receiving federal dollars to help us address these needs as we begin next school year, but we must understand that additional time and resources may be needed as we go throughout the 2021 year. The legislature recently took unprecedented action by passing a one-year state budget with nearly flat spending levels. The coronavirus epidemic forced the legislature to remove much-deserved raises for educators and state employees. The following statements were made by members of the General Assembly in describing this budget. House A&R Chairman Stephen Rudy said, "We have no way to know how far this recession is going to go, how deep it will truly be, and what it will mean to the coffers and the Commonwealth." Senate President Robert Stivers commented, "This is not the budget the governor will have to deal with." Our own Representative Joe Gravis told constituents, "There is hope that the budget we sent to Governor Andy Beshear this past week will get the job done, but legislators are well aware that the already low financial projections we used, based on estimates made in December, will still probably be too high as our country faces a steep recession driven by the necessary response to the coronavirus." Senate Minority Leader Morgan McGarvey stated, "We are confronted with a situation in which we don't know how much money we will have to spend next year, much less the year after that." In addition to the sobering remarks made by our legislators, Governor Andy Beshear noted last week in one of his daily press briefings that unless our state receives additional federal assistance, we will see an even more dramatic impact on our economy due to the coronavirus pandemic, including potential cuts to essential services. One other point, our staff has done an incredible job during our school closure. They shifted how instruction is delivered to our students in a short time frame. They have checked on our kids to make sure everything is okay. They have served thousands of meals on a weekly basis, and they have cleaned and disinfected our buildings to prepare for our return. They have done all this because it is best for students, and that's what our staff does. If there are any funds available, those monies should go towards staff raises, because this crisis has put a spotlight on how special Team Woodford is, and that should be recognized. In summary, with all that has come our way with the coronavirus pandemic, our focus may need to be reevaluated and shifted to ensure our district is in the best possible position to withstand the imminent economic uncertainty facing our nation, state, and community. The Kentucky School Boards Association has advised it is only prudent that school boards begin planning immediately to save every possible cent and avoid all non-essential costs in order to weather these expected funding blows when they come in the months ahead. Therefore, I hope you will strongly consider my recommendations to return our district back to a healthy state by rescinding the BG1 and restoring the $950,000 back to the general fund. As I stated before, I fully understand these are board decisions, but I believe it is my obligation to fully explain my position and recommendation during these extraordinary times. Thank you again for tuning in this evening. It's an honor to serve as your superintendent, and I know with all of us working together, we can become the flagship school district in Kentucky.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Next on the agenda, we have the treasurer's report and approved March financial report.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
a second by Ms. Springate. Tonight, I'm going to forego the calling of the roll. I'm not sure that was necessary. I just ask that if you have a no vote or abstention, that you make that very clear so we get the vote count correctly. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. We have on our agenda opportunity for a public comment. We had not set any protocols for that, so I don't know that we have any public comment, do we, Mr. Hawkins?
Without the the protocols, we do not have any. That will be
Okay.
voted on later on in the agenda.
Okay. Next is the consent agenda. Does any member want a item removed or separated out from the consent agenda?
No, thank you.
If not, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. Bradley. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? All right. Next, we have exception of, accept notification of personnel matters, item A. We have a motion,
So moved.
second? Okay, a motion by Mr. Wilson, a second by Ms. Bradley. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Next, item B, accept notification of payment of bills.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. Springate. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next, we have approved minutes of the March 10th, 2020, March 16th, 2020, March 23rd, 2020, and March 30, 2020 board meetings.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. Bradley. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Was that an aye, Ms. Richardson? I can't really, okay. Oh, there you are. All right, motion passes 5-0. Next, we have item D, rescind the BG1 for New Woodford County High School BG 19-353.
So moved.
We have a motion by Ms. Springate. Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of second. Item D, or item E, rescind the board resolution approved on September 20th, 2018, restricting general fund monies of $600,000.
So moved.
We have a motion by Ms. Springate. Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of second. Item F, rescind the board resolution approved on October 28th, 2019, restricting general fund $350,000.
So moved.
We have a motion by Ms. Springate. Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of second. Item G, creation of positions for 2020-2021 school year. I believe these were special education IEAs. We have a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Wilson.
Second.
Second. I'm sorry.
Second.
Second by Ms. Bradley. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item H, approve awarding of Chromebook bid to Firefly.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. Bradley. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item I, waiver of graduation requirements beyond the state minimum.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Wilson. Is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Bradley. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Are there any nays? Motion passes 5-0. Second item, or next item J, to motion to change the preschool classroom.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Wilson. Is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Bradley. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. No nays. Motion passes 5-0. Item K, preschool tuition forms. which was basically we're no longer accepting any preschool tuition students.
Three-year-old.
Pardon?
3-year-old tuition.
Oh, I thought I said 3. Okay. I did say 3, I meant to say 3.
Okay.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Wilson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Bradley, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays? Motion passes 5-0. Item L, Explore Time Company ETC fees and forms. We're going to increase the fees and the minimum number of days for part-time to 3 days. Is it,
So moved.
motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. Bradley. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays? Motion passes 5-0. Item M, BG5 Southside Cafeteria Kitchen Edition BG 18-329.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. Bradley. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have a motion to authorize the indirect costs for FY21.
So moved.
We have a motion by Ms. Bradley. Is there a second? Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
Was that you, Allison?
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Bradley, a second by Ms. Richardson. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any nays? Motion passes 5-0. Item O, approve renewal of bids for property, automobile, general liability, inland marine, umbrella, and approve awarding of bids for workers' compensation insurance to Kimi and cyber insurance to Axis FY 2020-2021 school year.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. Bradley. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Are there any nays? Motion passes 5-0. I'm going to skip to item Q, authorize district staff to seek appraisal of district-owned property between Southside and Huntertown.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. Bradley. Any discussion?
Yes, I did have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Has any board member spoken with any community partner or developer or elected official or anyone regarding selling this property?
I have not.
I have not. I have not.
I haven't either.
So I'm just wondering, I'm kind of struggling with why we're making the decision to do this now in light of the Department of Education's guidance not to spend money unless it's on a necessary expense. It doesn't seem like it's good timing to try to sell property right now. And it also doesn't seem like it's an expense that's really a necessary expense. And my other concern is just that we've had no discussions about the pros and cons of selling this property or what effects that would have on the students and the district. We've had zero conversations about that. So I think my preference would be just to wait. I don't think now is really the time to get appraisals or sell property. And I'm not sure about why, the timing issue.
So you equate getting an appraisal with selling property? Oh, I'm sorry.
I think that getting an appraisal on the property is the first step in being able to decide what benefit this does have to our district. So that's why I agree with going ahead and trying to do an appraisal on it. We don't know what the property is worth or what we can do with it. So there's no way for us to start a discussion about the benefits of this property if we don't know what it's worth and what we can do with it. That's all I'd like to say.
I see what you're saying, but I guess my thought process is before you spend money to get an appraisal, you should decide if it's worth it to sell the property, really at any cost. If it makes sense, what effects that would have on, say, busing students or redistricting students. If that property is somehow maybe beneficial to hold on to in case we're in need of a new elementary school, 5, 10, 20 years down the road. I just think all those discussions should happen before we spend money on an appraisal. If no one's interested in the property. I mean, if someone was interested in the property, maybe I would have a different opinion. But if no one's been approached or had any discussions with, anyone in the community or really anyone about, selling the property, I'm just not sure that the timing is great. It doesn't make sense to be spending money, especially in light of the comments of really KSBA's guidance, Department of Education's guidance, and really just kind of common sense.
Ms. Richardson, did you have anything else?
No, I've said what I'd like to say, but thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay. All opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1. Next, we have the protocol, item R, protocol for public comments during a video teleconference meeting. I believe Mr. Hawkins sent something out on that. Do we have a motion? I guess the motion would be to adopt the protocol for public comment during a video teleconference meeting. Do we have a motion? Ms. Springate?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion by Ms. Springate. Do we have a second?
Second.
By Ms. Bradley. Any discussion?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. Do we, on the proposed, is this going to be a policy or how are we categorizing it?
I don't know that it would be a policy as much as this would be our operating procedures while we're dealing with video teleconference meetings.
Okay. And so the language in the last line of the proposal says that if there's a large number, that there would be a time constraint. Do we want to quantify that? What is a large number, and do we want to have any language that discusses having it be centered on something that's on the agenda for tonight? Or do you not feel like it needs to be restrictive in that way, Mr. Hawkins?
I think the protocol says that it would have to be related to an agenda item. And typically, the chair has made the determination on time limits based on the number of people who have signed up. That's the way that it's been handled in the past instead of quantifying with a specific number.
Okay.
I think that to be specific as possible is going to make it run more efficiently and not lead to, confusion or frustration. So in the past, we've allowed 3 minutes per person, so I think the protocol said there will be 3 minutes to read the email. Is that correct?
Correct.
And there is no limit. I mean, I know, talking to other districts, even in normal times, they limit the total amount. If 60 people show up, they really encourage people to try to get together and put in one comment, especially if they're all talking on the same subject. So they kind of do that even in normal times. They'll limit it to 30 minutes, and then if there's more, it goes to the end of the meeting. I think if we are going to say, that there's going to be a specific amount of time for the total amount of public comment, I would like to have a gauge of what we think that should be. I don't know that I would like input on that. So does anybody have any input for me on that? Is my question clear? you know, we know 3 minutes per comment, but what is the total for all those comments added together?
Do you have
Anybody?
time in mind?
No, I'm looking for input on that. If Mr. Hawkins thinks I should decide that as the board chair, I would like some input.
So Jenny, are you saying to limit, so if you limit them to 3 minutes and it goes over 30 minutes, then we don't take any more comments? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking, total for all the comments together, so maybe we'd have, you know, we may have 50 emails. I mean, we could have 50 emails, because it's gonna be easier for this stuff to come in than when people actually come to the meeting. There is a time limit when they must submit them, and you know, so if everybody took their 3 minutes, then we're up to over 3 hours. So that's why, you know, I do think it is reasonable. I think people would understand that. We can always, you know, we could read some at the end of the meeting, but to delay the meeting for that long, for people right in the start of it, I just don't know how functional that is, especially virtually. So that's what I'm talking about.
If we amend,
Any way that you,
Go ahead, Allison.
is there any way that you can attach those comments to our live feed somehow so that they're still heard? Because we can't reply anyway. I just don't want to feel like that we're shutting anybody out. So if there's any way we can attach those to our Facebook feed or our feed on the school website.
Yes. I mean, and then that is an option. Now, Scott, remind me what in that protocol, what the time frame for submitting the questions? There was like a 30-minute time frame, so it would kind of emulate actually being at the meeting.
Right, I think we set up a 40-minute time slot from 5:30 till approximately 6:10. And
Right, because then they'd be able to have everything by the time public comment comes up on the agenda.
Correct.
That's the thought.
correct. The only caution I would offer on the setting a time limit is that we have not done that for a regular meeting. And so I would just be careful about putting any additional constraints on a virtual meeting because we've never said public comments would only last 30 minutes when we met in person. And so I think if you start putting more limitations on it, I think it could be viewed as we are limiting public comment. So that would be my only caution about setting a time limit.
Yeah, I understand that. I do understand that, but I think we also understand that, you know, whatever we say we're going to do, we're going to have to do. And again, if we get 50 emails, we'll be listening to somebody read emails for 3 hours. And is that something that we want to do in a meeting? Or Allison had a suggestion of, you know, just tacking them up there, or I don't know. That's what I worry about, really, is that it's so much easier to send an email than to come in for a public comment that we just need to kind of think of all the scenarios.
This is Sherry. I would just say that we are elected officials and we are a public board. And so I would just say that I think it's probably a huge part of our duty to have public input and to allow public input. And, you know, I don't really see an issue with it. It hasn't been an issue in the past. You know, I think if it becomes an issue, then maybe we can go back and revisit that. However, I do, you know, firmly believe that we should listen to the public. We are accountable to the public, and the public does pay the tax dollars that funds the schools and funds the board. And, you know, I don't think it's too much to ask for them one time a month to have public comment on our agenda.
I think the discussion right now is about the format of that public comment in this new format that we're having for our meetings. It's not whether we should or should not have public comment as a general rule. I mean, we've always had it. Nobody's trying to, we're just talking about, we're in a new format. We may need some new considerations, that's all. So, I mean, we could say, and I heard this from, again, several people at KSBA, or just different way people do things, even again, not in this non-virtual world, just in their regular in-person meetings, they may let 30, 45 minutes of public comment happen. If there's still more to be done, they stay, but they put it at the end of the meeting. So if there's anyone else there that needs to participate in the meeting, if there's people, staff people or whatever that kind of need to go, you know, they're not sitting for hours listening to public comment, but the public comment is still heard. It's just anything over 30, 40 minutes goes to the end of the agenda. And I don't think that's a hardship. That's something I would be interested in. That accommodates hearing everybody, but also trying to be accommodating to other people who are at the meetings.
The
Do we need to?
the one consideration on that, Ms. Evelyn, is that if the items that are brought up for public comment are about specific agenda items, then after the meeting, they are no longer relevant. Basically, if the person wanted to speak about or wanted their points made about a specific agenda item.
Yes, and that's true too, so. I do want to, I know that there's a lot of, I know our city, other jurisdictions in our city are not having public comment at this time. I know a lot of school districts are not having public comment at this time. My preference is to allow it. I just, again, am not in any way trying to infringe on that, and I hope everybody understands. I'm just trying to make it manageable, you know, like, so. And I think also when you read an email, it's not going to take as long as when someone speaks it. So that's what I was thinking of, reducing it to 2 minutes, but again, that's making a change then from before. So do we want to say a protocol that we're going to adopt? Can you read what you wrote, Scott? Could you read that for me?
Sure. Said a member of the public may submit a statement via email related to an item on the agenda between 5:30 and 6:10 to Angel Cooper. Angel would then print those, and each email would be read during the public comment portion of the agenda. Elaine Bailey, who is typically here for our meetings, or another staff member who is present in the boardroom, would read the comments, and then a copy of the email would be kept to accurately reflect those who submitted a public comment, just as we keep our sign-up sheet now. And if a large number of comments are submitted, each statement would be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Or you could just say the statements by and large would be limited to 3 minutes. It wouldn't never.
I think it says to need no, just like our regular, no statement is, doesn't matter if we have 1 or 100, no statement is longer than 3 minutes.
Okay, sure.
And did you specifically say in there it has to be related to the agenda?
Yes.
Did I miss that?
Yes.
It specifically says that?
Yes.
Okay.
That was my mistake.
Okay.
So if we amend this, do we table it until the next meeting? How does that work, Scott?
I think you can make an amendment to the recommendation because you're simply voting on the protocol. So if you just simply say that all submissions would be limited to no more than 3 minutes, instead of saying if it's based on a large number, just say each.
Right.
And
Okay.
if we try it with no cap for next month, then we could go back and amend it if we needed to for the following month.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we may even want to put on the main agenda at the very end to review this again, you know. But, so that is that's what we're voting on with that one amendment that Scott made where he took out, in the case of there being a large number, we'll just do what we normally do, which is no, public comment can be longer than 3 minutes. Okay?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can speak up a little bit.
Can we not just go ahead and set a cap, and then if we have, say we have a 30-minute cap and it goes over 35, 40 minutes, we go ahead and allow those? Can we?
You know,
Okay.
the only thing I worry about on that, Ms. Richardson, is then there's some discretion. Like, okay, I'll let it go over to 50, but if we still have 10 more minutes, I'm not letting those 10 more minutes. You know what I mean? Then I have that discretion sitting right there, what's long enough or what's too long. And just for my own help, I would rather have a stricter rule. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, is there anything else? So we have a motion, Mr. Hawkins, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you, we have a motion to adopt the protocol. Can you just read it one more time with the amendment so we're clear what we're voting on?
Sure. A member of the public may submit a statement via email related to an item on the agenda between 5:30 and 6:10 to Angel Cooper. And we may want to say 5:30 p.m. and 6:10 p.m. to Angel Cooper.
On the date, and say on the date of the meeting,
Okay,
like on the 11th or
okay.
whatever.
5:30 p.m. and 6:10 p.m. on the date of the meeting to Angel Cooper. Angel would print those, and each email would be read during the public comment portion of the agenda. Elaine Bailey or another staff member present in the boardroom would read the comments. A copy of the email would be kept to accurately reflect those who submitted a public comment, just as our sign-up sheet is kept now. Comments or statements submitted would be limited to no more than 3 minutes.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Oh, I think we have the motion, Mr. Wilson.
Oh, okay, good.
Well, now we have a motion on the amended one.
Wilson Bradley,
Any further discussion?
or Sherry Bradley, I'm sorry, Sherry Bradley.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Allison, did you say aye?
Yes.
You have a delay, so every time I say is there a nay, you go aye. So, okay, so I think the motion passes 5 to nothing.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
I'll
Alice.
start nodding my head. I said I'll start nodding my head because I'm pretty far out in the country, so everything's delayed here.
Yeah, it's just funny. Okay. And so I assume, Mr. Hawkins, you will advertise that on our website and make clear that it's for our regular meeting in May, which I believe is May 18th. Is that right?
That is correct.
So, okay. All right, the next item is approve of item S. Well, it's not the last, but the next approved last instructional day for the 2019-2020 school year. This was something new on the agenda. I believe it was for May 12th. Because we didn't get to talk about it in the planning meeting, do you want to say a few words, Mr. Hawkins, or?
Yes, Senate Bill 177 that was passed earlier this spring eliminated the need to reach a certain number of instructional days in the school calendar, and simply mandated that school districts achieve 1,062 instructional hours. And so with us maintaining our 4-day instructional week that we are currently on through May 8th, then our last instructional day for the year would be Tuesday, May 12th. And so that would be our recommendation.
We have a motion on item S. Mr. Wilson moved for item S. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Springate. Any discussion? I have a question. So what was the original date for the end of the year before we were hit with this situation?
Our last day would have been May 21st. Well, it would have been May 22nd, but then when the primary election was moved, then that date would have been moved back to May 21st, and that would have gotten our instructional days in. But now that we only have to do the hours, it pushed it back to May 12th.
And then what is the last day of the teacher contract?
That would still be May 21st is the last day for teachers on their contract. And then we'll be working with all of our classified staff as well. Their last contracted day would be sometime during that week as well.
Okay, I guess I thought the teacher's contracted days ran a little bit past the last instructional day.
One day passed.
Okay. So they'll have those days to kind of gear up for next year, or at least get started for that gear up process.
A lot of it will be finishing up this year. And then there could be some planning, but it will take a lot more to close down this year without students being in the building in terms of getting materials back to kids that are still in the classrooms, cleaning out lockers, those types of things, as well as doing all the grading with the work that's come in. So there's going to be quite a bit to be accomplished during that time frame.
Okay. And is there any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays?
Aye.
All right, motion passes 5-0. The last thing was the superintendent evaluation. Ms. Bradley, can you handle that for us, please?
Yes. Each year, the Board of Education holds superintendent evaluations. We do formative evaluations throughout the year, and then a summative that is read out in April. The evaluation of the superintendent is on 7 standards. I'll go through each one of those, and the possible scores are 1 up to 4, 1 being the lowest, 4 being the highest. The first standard is strategic leadership, and Mr. Hawkins received a 3. Standard 2 is instructional leadership, again a 3. Standard 3 is cultural leadership, the score is a 3. Standard 4 is human resource leadership, the score is a 3. Managerial leadership, the score is a 3. Collaborative leadership, the score is a 2. And standard 7 is influential leadership, and the score was a 3.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bradley.
Debbie, I have a comment I would like to add about this agenda item.
Okay.
I just would like to say that at the meeting held back in January, I talked about the cost Mr. Hawkins had endured both personally and professionally as a result of his advisement against the board's current path to funding this new high school. The ratings on this evaluation are an example of what I was referencing when I made this statement. Most everyone that works closely with Mr. Hawkins realizes that these scores do not come close to accurately portraying his performance or the work of our school district. For the past 8 years, 3 members of the board, myself included, gave the superintendent the highest of ratings at most every standard and praised him with glowing remarks. This year, 3 of the ratings have been lowered and 1 has been rated below accomplished. Obviously, something has changed. Is it the performance of the superintendent or the board? To help answer this question, I'd like to share the following facts regarding the evaluation process. Fact number 1. Our board policy governing the superintendent evaluation states the evaluation criteria and process to be used shall be explained to and discussed with the superintendent no later than the first month of reporting for employment each fiscal year. This means the board was required to meet with Mr. Hawkins prior to August 1st to explain the evaluation process. Did this happen? No. Is it important? Yes. The board should always meet with the superintendent to explain the evaluation process, but in this year's case, it was even more important given the fact that the board felt Mr. Hawkins' performance was declining or expectations were changing. Fact number 2, the first evaluation with conference with Mr. Hawkins was not held until November 6th and then continued to November 18th. As a result of these 2 sessions, Mr. Hawkins received 10 new goals, in addition to the 7 standards listed on our evaluation instrument. The board's administrative procedure states that the goals should be agreed upon by the superintendent and the board at the beginning of the year. Providing 10 goals in November does not come close to meeting this expectation. It left Mr. Hawkins a mere 20 school days, to work on these newly formed goals prior to the winter break. Fact number 3, 35 school days after the November meeting, the board held a second formative conference with Mr. Hawkins on January the 27th, with another continuation meeting on February the 6th. The combined meetings took 3 to 4 hours, yet few suggestions were provided to the superintendent, and he received no written feedback. Mr. Hawkins did provide the board with a comprehensive list of hundreds of pieces of evidence and data for all the standards, along with written progress towards each of the 10 goals. Fact number 4, the February before the summative conference held last Monday, I received a summary of the January formative evaluation meeting. This was the first time I had received this summary. Ironically, it contained selected comments from board members, but mine were not included. I asked Mr. Hawkins if he had received the summary, and he had not. Why wasn't the summary provided to the board members soon after the meeting, and why wasn't feedback provided to Mr. Hawkins? Fact number 5, a summative conference was held last Monday. The meeting lasted less than 30 minutes. Each board member was asked to call out a rating for the standard on the evaluation instrument with no evidence to justify their scores. Ratings were averaged for a final score. Mr. Hawkins was then called to the meeting for a reading of these results. No explanation or evidence was provided as to the ratings for why 3 standards were lowered from the previous year or why standard 6 was rated as developing. Additionally, the board never mentioned any of the 10 goals established in November. Fact number 6. As stated, Mr. Hawkins received a 2 on standard 6 titled Collaborative Leadership. Let me read this standard. The superintendent maintains a positive relationship with board members so they work together to establish community support for the district's goals through effective 2-way communication with students, staff, parents, business representatives, government leaders, community members, and the media. Let's think for a moment about the board's goal of constructing a new high school in relation to this standard. Who refused to have a community forum to discuss the funding options prior to approving the BG1? Who shut down 2-way communication at the forum? Who refused to allow community input on the high school schematic before it was approved by the board? The correct answer to all 3 questions is the board, even though Mr. Hawkins recommended engaging the community at every step of the way. In conclusion, I would like to go back to my original question. What has changed? Is it the superintendent or the board? I think the facts speak for themselves, and it is evident that the board violated its own policies and procedures and KSBA training in this process.
Any other comments?
Yes, Ms. Evelyn, I'd like to say something.
Yes, Ms. Richardson, please speak up, okay?
Okay, I would like to say that I actually appreciate the effort that Ms. Bradley put into this in our evaluation process this year. Last year when we did the evaluation, we were told that we had to use an average of the previous evaluations to get the score that we had, but there was no documentation, even though we asked multiple times to be able to for Ms. Springate to provide this information to us. It was never given to us. So I do appreciate the work that Ms. Bradley did. I'm not sure, I don't feel like there were any comments left out. I know none of mine were. If Ms. Springate feels like hers were, I'm sorry for that. But I do think the process this year was a lot more detailed, and we had a better understanding of what we were supposed to do. And there was written documentation that was provided to all of us. So I just wanted to let you know that I do appreciate the work that Ms. Bradley did on that.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Is there any further comments? I will say that Ms. Springate did raise her complaints the day of the evaluation to, contacted a lawyer. We spent the day working through them. He was of a very different opinion. So, and I think that's important to note as well, that once again, and again, that was the day of April 20th. So, any other further comments from Ms. Bradley? Do you have any comments?
I would say that I think it's important to note that comments are required when a score of 1, which is improvement required, is given. We did give comments throughout the other formative evaluations, and we agreed upon the goals during the formative evaluations, and I don't believe Mr. Hawkins had any issues with those that he expressed to us. Mr. Hawkins has every opportunity to share those concerns and has not. So.
And Debbie, this is Sherry again. I would just say
Let me
that,
try to give everybody an opportunity to talk before we go back. Mr. Wilson, do you have anything?
No, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Bringett?
yes, I would just say that our policy is very clear. Our procedures are very clear. Dates, deadlines, emails, all of that is easily proven through open records requests. And I stand by my statements outlining this process and my concerns with it. And again, it's very clear if it happened or didn't happen. It's all in writing for the most part. And so I stand by my comments and, believe that, as stated previously, there were issues. I think that we have an exemplary school system. We have exemplary leadership, and it's been very evident this past year, especially during the COVID crisis, how prepared and how strong our district and our leadership has been. And I thank you, Mr. Hawkins, and thank your team.
Okay, anything else? All right, so,
Can I respond, Ms. Evelyn?
oh, yes, please.
Thank you. The evaluation of a leader typically reflects the performance of the organization. And for my first 10 years, it did just that. I received mostly exemplary ratings, and I think everyone would agree we had an exemplary school district. Interestingly enough, our district continues to perform at an extremely high level, and that is noted through multiple measures, such as our advanced ed audit, our Pritchard Committee designation as a bright spot, our financial audit, our food service reviews, our state assessment results. So I am disappointed in the evaluation process, that timelines weren't followed, that little feedback and suggestions were provided, and no evidence was given to me for my ratings. But it is a one-day event, and it simply are numbers on a paper. And so when I get up tomorrow, I will put this behind me, and I will continue serving our students and our staff as I have done every day for the last 12 years. And I will continue doing everything that I can to make Woodford County the best school district it can be.
Thank you, sir. All right, so on the superintendent evaluation, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. I don't think we need to vote on it. I think we just have to announce it. Danny, are you? I think we do need to know about it. Do we have a motion to approve the superintendent evaluation?
So moved.
Mr. Wilson makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that you, Danny?
Yes.
We have a motion by Mr. Wilson, a second by Ms. Bradley. All in favor? Is there any more? Well, we have discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1. All right. We do not have any discussion items listed. I will go around the bend if anybody has anything they want to share about the school system. Let's do that. Ms. Springate.
No, I would just, congratulate really the teachers, the parents, the students on adjusting to, these really ever-changing circumstances, and praise our superintendent, leadership, staff, teachers, parents, students, everyone really, community partners, on really just doing the best that we can every single day. I think it's a testament to what a good community and good school district we have.
Thank you. Ms. Bradley?
I would congratulate all of our Governor Scholars. That's exciting to have so many in so many different areas, and congratulations to all of them on their hard work and accomplishment. I know that those are really special times for those kids and a big accomplishment from moving forward. Consistently, I want to thank all of our teachers and counselors and everyone who's working with our students, our social workers, and especially our food service workers, who are just doing a wonderful job for the community. I'm very appreciative, and I don't feel like we can say that enough. The one thing that I do know a lot of people are going to be wondering about is a graduation update, and I'm not sure if we can do that now, Mr. Hawkins. I think people are pretty starved for information on that.
Right. We are awaiting some guidance from the Kentucky Department of Education and our state health officials on what options can be considered. We are looking at multiple options, but again, it will be very dependent on what restrictions are in place. And so, again, we are looking at all options that will be available to us. And as I stated last week, if there is a way for us to do an in-person graduation, even if it's a little later this summer, we certainly will do that.
Do we have a target date for when we'll make the decision on whether or not we're going to do a virtual, as well as hopeful that we might have a physical graduation too?
At least based on the feedback that I've got, I don't know that the students are very interested necessarily in what is considered a virtual. But again, what we want to do is to look at a couple of options that may be that we may be able to consider. Again, I think probably with the uncertainty on when phase one will be ending, because I think phase one says no more than 10 in a location. At least my understanding is that probably wouldn't be lifted at least until June. So I don't know how many different options can be considered before then. So I do think we'll have a good update, or at least a lot more information by our planning meeting in May, which is the 11th. And I think we'll know a lot more then.
Okay, thank you.
Let me just ask one question about this. I know we've all gotten such heartfelt emails. It's such a loss. And I'm going to go ahead and ask Ryan about this too. I don't know how much we're letting our students be part of this decision making, because one email I got was they just really hungered to be able to be together and not do virtual. So if Ryan, do you want to chime in on this at all? What that you have your time right now, or anything else that's going on with the students?
Yeah, so I think about last Thursday, Mr. Arnold held a Google Hangout with the senior class and essentially went over some of the options. The majority of it was spent on talking about the virtual aspect, and then the potential for an in-person graduation. While I know that all of us are very hopeful for an in-person graduation, that's what we really want to do, we don't have much information, or at least we're not provided with enough information about the virtual meeting as of right now. Something I think would be important is like we mentioned, to have a decision, a set time for that decision, so our seniors have some sort of certainty, or at least have comfort in the sense of knowing that there will be a decision somewhat soon. I understand that there are restrictions that we have to follow, and things that are out of our control, but as Mr. Hawkins mentioned, as many people have mentioned to me and to, I'm sure, you all as well, we very much so would appreciate an in-person graduation. Whatever steps necessary to do so, I am very willing to take and do. And so, yeah, that's essentially what's gone on with the graduation side of it. Mr. Arnold did mention that he is hopeful that we will have more of those kinds of virtual meetings to get feedback from the students in a more direct form. And it is to my understanding that there has been discussion among the seniors about a potential of waiting until there's a live graduation. But that was before the virtual discussion with Mr. Arnold, so I'm not sure how that has adjusted or changed or whatnot. I have not heard more about that. Something I do want to mention is that we are all very thankful for the support staff at our schools, our teachers, the board, Mr. Hawkins, our own classmates for helping each other through this tough time. I know that I've received emails from my teachers just asking me how things are going, emails from my guidance counselors updating me on what's going on with the school and helping me through some of my options for the future, which it's amazing to see, and I'm so proud to say that I'm from Woodford County and that we're doing all this hard work to ensure our students have the best out of this situation. Something I also do want to mention is I left the meeting twice today, but that's because I had a connection issue. I did not intend on it. It said I want connection. I just wanted to clear that up. I was not leaving on purpose. But I just want to think that it is a tough time. And I think we all understand that. I'm very glad that that our district is very flexible in this matter and is doing the best we can to get those kinds of in-person things done, like graduation. And I'm hopeful for more information in the future about that, and I'm sure the rest of the senior classes as well. Some positive notes are that there has been an Instagram page for the senior students to be recognized.
We're losing you a little bit, Ryan.
For where they're going, sure, and for additional thoughts and stuff, which is good to see, and it just helps our morale this time.
Okay, we're losing you a little bit, Ryan, but.
Oh, sorry, I'm under why.
That's okay.
I guess I entered
Okay.
spot right now, but just everyone for your hard work and support for our students at this time.
Ryan, do you plan on staying with us through May? Will you be here at our May meetings? I can't hear you say. I hope so. I can't
I just
hear
wanted
you.
to say thank you. So that's the
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Ms. Richardson, I can't remember who I've asked. I know Ms. Springate spoke, Ms. Bradley spoke, Mr. Ali. Ms. Richardson, do you have anything to say? Any discussion or anything you want to mention to the board? You have to speak up, Allison.
But I did just want to say that I've spoken to a lot of. I said I have spoken to a lot of senior parents. Can you hear me, Debbie?
Yes.
Okay, I have spoken to a lot of senior parents and a lot of the seniors, and as a mom of a 2017 graduate, I just want to let them know that we do want, myself, and I'm sure that the board as a whole, we want them to be able to have the graduation that they deserve, and that's what we will do, given the governor gives us the okay. But I want to let them know that as a mom, as a board member, I do feel for them. I know that this must be a horrible, horrible feeling for them to work this hard, this long. Some of them having a first-time graduate, some of them having their last graduate, to have to deal with this and put this off and wait and be uncertain. But I wanted to let them know that I am praying for them, I feel for them, and if there's anything that we can do as a board, I will be behind them 100% and support them as parents and students.
Thank you, Allison. Mr. Wilson, did you have anything to say?
Yes, I'd like to, instead of mentioning each area of our employees, I would just like to thank each and every one for their unprecedented hard work during very, very difficult times. And I think we need to be mindful that when it comes to NTI days, they were never designed to educate students as long as they have. There was no process, there was no playbook to deal with this crisis, yet they gave 110% to educate the children, to take care of them in each of their own ways. And I will be forever indebted to them for their efforts, and I appreciate it so much. I'm also heartsick for the 2020 seniors and their families because they've missed out on a lot of things that we all were able to take part in. And I too am very supportive of trying to uphold their wishes of having somehow, someday, an in-person graduation, and I will do everything I can to make sure that that happens. Ryan, there's no one better than you. I can't tell you how much respect I have for you and how glad I've got to be with you for 2 years, and we're going to try to make this happen for you and all of your other seniors. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you so much.
All right, I echo everything. I think all of us are grieving for our seniors, and we're going to do the best we can for them. I just want to close too by saying, it has been a difficult year for the board. We have differences of opinions. I certainly have lost votes, but as part of our ethics, we go with the majority of the board. We make the best. We be functional. There may have been some disappointments tonight. I think there's more on these restrictions to come. Information is still coming in. So let's just, have our differences, but then try not to use those as a reason to disparage each other personally or to maybe disparage people we work with, whether it's an architect or a lawyer. We are one board. We're all here for the Ryans of the world. And I'm proud to serve with all of you, and we'll keep working at it. So that's it.
Madam Chairwoman, I move we adjourn.
Is there a second? I saw Ms. Bradley mouth a second. I didn't hear it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Wilson, a second by Ms. Bradley. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.